Good morning, all of you. So today we will discuss very important session. So especially while we are attending the interview, so without this question, so we cannot expect the interview also. Okay. Even once we get the job, so definitely again in job perspective also, this is the very important topic. So that is the FI and MM integration, and that too in these classes. So I will try to explain each and every point in detailed manner with complete configuration and as well as the final general entries. Okay, so these are all points today we will try to discuss, and this video is very important who want to get the job in SAP being a finance consultant. So even this video is helpful to material management consultant also. Why? Because so here we are integrating FI and as well as MM module, right? So this video is helpful even MM people also. So even this video I will try to upload in our YouTube channel. So if you have any doubts or if you have any concerns or if you want to know more things also, so just please make it comment in this video. So I will try to give the answer also. And regarding this topic, here as per my experience, so there is some other points also we need to remember, like why the FIMM integration is needed and what is the need and what is the business process and what is the different type of businesses and what is the matching way, like how we are connecting FIMM. Is it three-way matching or two-way matching, like purchase invoice and goods receipt and as well as invoice receipt matching, or purchase invoice or invoice receipt matching. So we have different points we need to consider. And again, once the configuration is completed and once the general entries is once we are getting the general entries, so I will try to explain the complete logic, like how this integration is happened between FI and MM. So at the end of this video, or I will make it as this video into parts, like part 1, part 2, part 3, like that. So if you go through this all videos, the end of part I will try to conclude the complete FIMM integration logic. Okay, so initially I don't want to explain that logic. Once we completed, these are all configuration, and once we are getting the general entries in the finance module, so the final version I will try to explain the complete logic also. So that logic is video is very helpful, especially in interview while we are attending the interview. So we are getting n number of questions from the interviewer based on that logic. Okay, so here in this area, so first of all, we are going with the first point. What do you mean by procure to pay cycle? And before that, I will try to go with why FMS MM integration is needed. So this is the first point. Sorry, friends. Why FIMM integration is needed? Okay. So here, first of all, before that, we know the business process, especially if you consider any one manufacturing business. Okay, if you consider any one manufacturing business, okay, sorry, if you consider any one manufacturing business, usually the manufacturing business process will be procurement, like procure raw materials, okay, and later they are going into production. We are called as, in general terminology, manufacturing. And once the production is done, so we received the finished goods. So again, the finished goods we are selling to our customers. It means sales. Okay. So in this scenario, please try to understand why the FIMM module integration is needed in SAP, or why the FI and SD module integration is needed in SAP ERP tool. Let's say, for example, if you are going into this business process, okay, being a consultant, understanding of business process is very, very important. Okay. Oh, usually in a globally, we have majorly three type of business process, or we can call as a only three type of business process. One is the manufacturing, and the second one is the wholesale and retail, and the third one is the service. So if you consider any client, any business, all businesses comes into these three major business process only. Either it is manufacturing, or either it is retail or wholesale, and either it is the service based. Okay. Especially while we are going into the business process in manufacturing, okay, this area. So the first point is, in business usually we have a different departments. Okay. So in business we have different departments is there, like purchase department. This is our general terminology, but where it comes to SAP terminology, we call it as a procurement department. And the next one is the manufacturing department, or we are called as a manufacturing, or we are called as a production department in SAP terminology. Okay. And the next one is sales department, and the next one is finance department, and the next one is HR department. So here I took only few departments to understand the FIMM integration is needed in the perspective. So in this case, now you can see in real time environment how the business is going and how the business is doing their transactions and all. So especially while we are procuring the raw materials from the supplier or from the vendors, the procurement and all the complete things taken care by in SAP, the module is MM module, the material management module. It means, and again I told you, basically while we are working with the SAP environment, basically we have two type of major teams, like one is the business team and another one is the SAP team. So if you work with any type of client in SAP environment, basically, so we are splitting our groups into majorly two things. One is the business team, and again another one is the SAP team. And when it comes to again the business team, we have different type of people is there, like end user, super user, power users, assistant manager, manager, or operations manager, or operations director. So likewise, again we have different type of the designation people is there. And when it comes to SAP team, again we have different type of teams, like the design team, or the build team, or testing team, or data migration team, or the application support team, or production support team. So within the teams, again we have a different structure, like junior consultant, senior consultant, lead consultant, solution architect, or the end-to-end owner. So likewise, we have different type of teams we can observe in any SAP environment, in business side and as well as the SAP side. And within the teams, again we have different type of consultants is there. So usually while we observe the any one business, so basically the business team will taken care by this procurement things. Actually the procurement things and all doing by the business team of that particular client. But the point is, while they are doing the procurement, So before that, I have a one small correction also. See, the point is here the business, under the business, the purchase department or the procurement department will responsible by the procurement things and all. And again, in this SAP scenario, there is a two scenarios. One is at the time of implementation project. Okay. So the next thing is at the time of support project. So we need to understand these 2 points. So in implementation project, it means while we are implementing SAP or while we are installing SAP to our client. So the implementation project, the procurement things and all taken care by the consultants, material management consultants. And once the implementation is done, project went to go live and the business starts the using the SAP software. While they are using the SAP software, if they are getting any issues, especially in this area, procurement area or the materials management area. So if they are getting any incidents or if they are getting any tickets and all, again here the responsible team will be material management team. So please try to understand this point is very clear is material management will always support to the business team, but the actual transactions, the procurement of raw materials or purchasing of inventory or these are all things will taken care by the business team only. While they are doing their things, if they are getting any issue, so then the consultants comes into picture. Okay, so consultants will support those things. So this is the fundamental point we need to know. Again, if you go to the procurement pay cycle, okay, we are called as procure to pay cycle. So in our interview, so without this question, we cannot expect in our interview also. 99 or 90% of cases we are getting this question. So again in this session, so I will try to explain the procure to pay cycle. Usually this procure to pay cycle, we can see these are all things comes into procure to pay cycle. Okay, so the first one is the requisition determination. This is not a important, especially while we are getting any requisition determination we received from any SD module or any PP module. So this comes into picture, but right now I am eliminating this one. Usually our procure to pay cycle starts with the purchase requisition, purchase order, goods receipt, invoice receipt, payment to vendor, and finally BRS. In finance point of view, not only finance, even in point of view also, the procure to pay cycle will be this one only. Especially at the time of purchase requisition or at the time of purchase order, there is no accounting part involved in these two places. So that's the reason only these two places we don't have any general entry appeared from the finance point of view. Please try to remember. So even in interview also we can expect this question. The interviewer was asking explain about procure to pay cycle or explain about FIMM integration with accounting entries. So at that time you need to explain the procure to pay cycle starts with purchase requisition, purchase order and goods receipt and invoice receipt and payment to vendor and finally BRS. So BRS is especially to clearing the vendor open item balances and all. So we are using the last part BRS. So again the general entries. What is the general entry in goods receipt? Already I told you in purchase requisition and in purchase order there is no general entry. Okay. And when it comes to the goods receipt, we have a general entry we have a general entry. The general entry will be inventory account debtor, inventory account debit, GR/IR. GR/IR is a goods receipt, invoice receipt. This is a just what I call, this is just one account. We can use it for a provision. It's a provision account. Just we are using at the time of goods receipt and at the time of invoice receipt only, especially to avoid the time gap between the goods receipt and the invoice receipt. We are using GR/IR clearing account is a provision account. This is just a provision account. GR/IR clearing account credit. Okay, this is the general entry. And where it comes to invoice receipt, the general entry will be GR/IR clearing account debit. Okay, vendor account is credit. Okay, so at the time of payment to the vendor, so the general entry will be, sorry, so the general entry will be vendor account debtor, vendor account debit to check issue account. Check issue account. Check issue account is credit. And at the time of BRS, the final entry will be check issue account debtor, means check issue account is debit and main bank account is credit. Okay, so please try to understand these general entries, especially while we are attending the interview. So we need to explain these are all things. Okay, so at the time of purchase requisition and purchase order, we don't have any general entries. Clear? Why? Because these two is completely taken care by the consultants and there is no accounting part involved up to these two places. But where it comes to goods receipt onwards, so the general entry point of view especially triggered, and we are getting the general entries at the time of goods receipt, inventory account debtor to GR/IR clearing account. And again here I explained GR/IR clearing account is just a provision account. Okay, you can observe these two general entries. So here GR/IR account is credited here, and here GR/IR clearing account is debited here. The finally, what is the final entry impacted? Inventory account debtor to vendor account. But why we are using this GR/IR clearing account? For the purpose of provision. Provision in the sense, sometimes, not sometimes, usually in business, in real time business, what happened? There is a time gap between goods receipt and as well as invoice receipt. To avoid the time gaps in the real time working environment, being a finance consultant, we need to use this GR/IR clearing account. And again, this GR/IR clearing account, we need to clearing on the monthly basis based on the business requirement. Okay, especially the GR/IR clearing is also very important as part of our month end activity. Okay, the in interview, so we expected this question also. Could you please explain the month end activities, and within that month end activities, what's our roles and responsibilities? So even this point is also part of our month end activity. So now again, so goods receipt, we have the general entry inventory account debtor to GR/IR clearing, and here at the time of invoice receipt, the general entry will be GR/IR clearing account debtor to vendor account. And payment to vendor, at the time of payment to vendor, sorry, so here this is not a transaction code, right? So here the T code will be F-53 or F110. Either it is manual payment or automatic payment program. So at the time of payment to vendor, the general entry will be vendor account debtor to check issue account. And at the time of BRS, the final clearing, check issue account that are to main bank account, and again here check issue account you can see credit and debit, and final the impact will be vendor account that are to main bank account only. Okay. Okay. So this is the things we need to know before we are going into the FIMM integration. And here why the FIMM integration is needed. So the point is here the procurement things and all taken care by the MM or the procurement department. But once this is done, purchase requisition, purchase order, goods receipt and invoice receipt, this step is performed by the finance department. It means there is no authorization for the MM people, sorry, for the procurement people in the business environment. Usually the payments made to the vendors is done by the which consultant, which team? Finance team. Okay. So here the finance team will be responsible to make the payments to the vendors or suppliers. Here the procurement team or the MM team don't have authorization to make the payment to the supplier or vendor. So same principle will be applicable at the time of sales also. So in sales and distribution, again the sales and distribution activities performed by the sales team, but finally the amount received by the finance team only. So that's the reason only in real time working environment. So here we need to connect our procurement department to finance department. Why? Because here the procurement things and all taken care by the procurement department, but the final amount payment made by the finance department. It means before the finance make the payment, the finance department cross check whether the procurement is doing the procurement is correct or not. Or let's say for example procurement said like we are procuring the raw materials 1000 units or 1000 quantity, the price of 1 lakh. So is it the conversation is happened between the procurement team and finance department team? So again, the finance team, the finance department will not pay amount immediately. Before they are making the payment, they will cross check whether that 1000 quantity we received or not. That 1000 quantity from which vendor the procurement team is purchasing. Who is that vendor? What is that purchase order? What is that goods receipt? What is that invoice receipt? Especially these are all things cross checked by the finance team. If everything is perfect, then only the payment happened from the finance side. So that's the reason only here the FIMM integration plays the key role, especially in the SAP environment. So very, very important. So in a business process, we have different type of departments is there. So within the departments in SAP, we have different modules, especially in functional point of view, material management, sales and distribution management, or the finance, or the HR, or the PP, or PM, or PS. Likewise, we have different modules. The beauty of SAP software is main thing is integration. Integration is nothing but we are connecting one department to another department in very easy way. Once the goods receipt is done, automatically the journal entry appeared in the finance automatically. I will show you in upcoming next session. I will show you how once the MIGO is happened in the material management side, the journal entry how we can see in the finance team. And once the invoice received is done by the MM side, then how the journal entry is appeared in the accounting side. So these are all things also I will show you the complete configuration and as well as the complete journal entries also. So now just you can remember this journal entries, and we can see once this completion is, once the configuration is done, and once we are going with these things, so we can observe the journal entries also. And at the time of the conclusion session, I will try to explain the logic also, why this is happened and what is the logic behind that. Okay, so this video is very helpful to prepare the interview and as well as in real time working environment also. So please try to concentrate this one. Okay, please try to watch one or two times or three times or whatever it is to understand this concept in very clear cut manner. Okay, I hope so you understood up to now why the FIMM integration is needed in SAP and what is the procure to pay cycle. And in procure to pay cycle, here I mentioned the points and as well as the T codes also: purchase requisition, purchase order, goods receipt, invoice receipt, and payment to vendor. And please try to understand these activities and all taken care by the P2P team, procure to pay team. But when it comes to these things and all taken care by the finance team, R2R team, R2R team. And finally, this one is also done by the R2R team. This is the general entries. This is the T codes. And again, you need to remember these general entries. So don't explain the procure to pay cycle in interview without entries. Okay. So while we are going the entries, in the last session, I explained the logic also. At that time, you will understand more and you will understand the complete things, how these are all things is happened in the SAP and all. That session I will explain once we are getting the general entries and all. Okay. So now I am going into the configuration part, what we can see in this one. Okay, so first of all we will be maintaining the configuration, so each and every step, and again we are going into the input values, whatever the configuration we maintain here, so we will be maintain our input values and all. So now I will open my system. So again and again, so I told you this is the SAP S4 HANA 2022 version. Okay, so you can see this is the 2022 version. While you are practicing in our system by seeing this video in YouTube, so if you practice through 1090, 1909, sorry 1909 or 2021, or if you practice through ECC, whatever the screens I showed here, whatever the configuration I maintained here, maybe there is a chance to differ with your system also. Why? Because so in SAP we know we know one point is very clear. So each and every version the upgradations is happened. The new updates comes into picture. Okay, that's the reason only. If you go through your practice in different server like 2021 or 1909 or the ECC system, definitely the screens will be